Well, a lot of people were outraged after Fox 4 reported that North Texas Crime Stoppers initially refused to give a reward to a couple who helped police catch a most wanted fugitive. The reason? Well, that couple called 911 instead of calling the Crime Stoppers hotline.
Now, a Fox 4 investigation has uncovered that the North Texas Crime Stoppers organization is not keeping track of very basic information about how reward money is being distributed. Fox 4's Lori Brown joining us in studio with what she's uncovered. Lori.
Steve, in the 4 months since our initial report, we've learned that North Texas Crime Stoppers is unable to show us any of the crimes solved or arrests made as a result of a tip to their hotline. First, let's take you back to June when the Dallas couple helped police capture a most wanted fugitive.
Police say he sexually assaulted the 7-year-old girl. This is the man police are looking for, 41-year-old Leonard Lamar Neal. And tonight, police need help from the public to find him.
It's been a few days, and this is the point where we continue to ask the public for their help.
Dallas police were out of leads and desperate to find a man who they say kidnapped and sexually assaulted a 7-year-old girl 5 days earlier.
They're covering all bases.
Thankfully, a Dallas couple was in the right place at the right time. Brianna and Kenyatta Jordan spotted Leonard Neal at a bus stop and immediately called 911. The result of their actions, police arrested Neal, taking him off North Texas streets. But the Jordans said when they called the North Texas Crime Stoppers hotline to ask about the reward,
we dialed 911 instead of the Crime Stoppers phone number. We're not able to get the reward.
With a case that shined a spotlight on a glaring flaw with the system, we began asking questions of North Texas Crime Stoppers. It is one of approximately 150 certified community Crime Stoppers programs in the state of Texas. David Dean is the chair of the organization that runs it, the North Texas Crime Commission. Dean would not speak with me on camera. We did talk on the phone in July. He told me what they should have done if interested in receiving a financial reward is call Crime Stoppers and follow the procedures. But that would have meant not calling 911 first. Instead, taking the time to find the Crime Stoppers hotline number, which could have led to Neal getting away.
People are going to start looking at that program as not being sincere.
Keith Owens, a former federal investigator with the Department of Homeland Security and now a distinguished lecturer at UT Arlington, said the program's rules are flawed.
And would it be a bad message that if you call 911, you're not eligible?
Oh, that would be a terrible message, because at that point, then you're going to have a reduction of phone calls.
Dean went on to reveal their system makes it difficult, if not impossible, for anyone to ever know if their tip led to an arrest, even asking me for advice. I have no idea if others were calling at the same time. What would your recommendation be in that case? Don't you work hand in hand with police and can ask, were these the only people calling? We encourage people all the time to call 911, call police. As far as eligibility for these funds, there is a certain way for it to occur. I asked if that means Crime Stoppers' message is to call the hotline before 911 to be eligible. Dean's answer revealed deceptive messaging. Call 911 always first, no exceptions.
It feels like we were misled.
A week after our story aired in July and after a Fox 4 viewer came forward to provide the reward amount on his own, Crime Stoppers did pay the Jordans their reward. But the process raised serious questions.
The North Texas Crime Commission, the NTCC, the Dallas branch of Crime Stoppers, they need a complete overhaul.
While Fox 4 News was asking questions, a man approached me about a concerning situation he encountered when he provided a tip. In March 2021, we reported on a fugitive wanted for several assaults.
Dallas police are looking for a man they call a person of interest in 2 sexual assault cases.
The tipster saw this image posted on Instagram by Fox 4 Terry.
Crime Stoppers is offering up to $5,000 for information that leads to an arrest.
The tipster I spoke with asked us not to show his face and to disguise his voice.
I kept looking at it again. I'm like, you know what? This has to be who I think it is.
He went to North Texas Crime Stoppers website and left a thorough tip, stating he believed this image was that of then 33-year-old Darnell Green.
Throughout 2021, I checked back like maybe 3 or 4 times online, and the tip was just, just sitting, just like it looked like the day I submitted it.
Then this summer, he learned from a friend that Green was in jail, and the timing of his initial arrest was shortly after he had submitted his tip.
And then they go look at, yeah, he's in jail, but we don't think it's for your tip.
But after multiple follow-ups,
And they're like, yeah, we now have an update, and the detective has reached out to us, and your tip is what led to his arrest.
North Texas Crime Stoppers then provided the reward.
Does it feel like the system's broken?
Definitely. They advertise themselves as, they're taking crime off the streets, preventing crime, getting violent people off the streets. But really, I feel like they're trying their best not to reward it out.
North Texas Crime Stoppers is funded through Dallas, Collin, and Grayson County court fees, which totaled nearly $300,000 last year.
If you hadn't inadvertently found out that the person you had turned in had been arrested, would you have ever gotten your reward?
I would have never gotten it.
Dean's wife, Jean Dean, is the chair of the North Texas Crime Stoppers Committee. That is the committee that decides which tips should receive rewards. She declined to talk to Fox 4. Instead, board member Richard Roper, a white-collar crimes criminal defense attorney, agreed to talk with us at his office, but only off camera. Roper brought in Mike Pappas, a private security manager for a former bank CEO. Pappas is on the Crime Stoppers Committee and is an unpaid volunteer responsible for submitting records to the state. We have not met personally in a room like this since pre-COVID. During COVID, we started meeting by Zoom, and then we would vote later on how much to award if there is something needed, to be rewarded. Pappas was unable to immediately name all of the committee members. You know what? I'm going to have to apologize. Say I don't really know all of them by name because we don't meet personally anymore.
Does it sound like it's ripe for waste, fraud, and abuse?
Oh my God, yes, absolutely. It's more than ripe. I mean, it's bursting at the seams with respect to just the non-accountability. It's not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen.
And it has already happened. In 2012, Dallas police officer Theodora Ross was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for embezzling $250,000 in reward money over 5 years while she ran the North Texas hotline. She started putting in fake tips, so we were voting on people that weren't really tipsters, and that got uncovered. When I brought this up with Roper, his response, I've either prosecuted or defended embezzlement cases. It's just the ingenuity of the human mind is boundless. I asked why David and Jean Dean did not agree to an interview. Roper said he is acting as the de facto general counsel for the Crime Commission. The commission does not have a single paid staff member to help run it. Instead, it relies on unpaid volunteers to determine how to allocate the cash rewards to anonymous tipsters. Roper said they did have a paid employee administrator in the past. We've thought about trying to build it back up. We did it for a while, and then the Crime Commission, frankly, wasn't in great shape financially. An interesting statement. Self-disclosure forms called 990s show the Crime Commission's net assets have doubled recently, from $2.5 million in 2015 to nearly $5 million in 2021. Pappas did provide me with the amounts paid out in rewards for the past 9 years. The average amount, about $83,500. But for the last 2 years, the amount was less than half that much, on average about $40,600. Unlike the state's Crime Stoppers branch with a list of captured fugitives and reward amounts on its website, Pappas was unable to show me which cases the rewards were paid for. The state would have all of those. But the state did not. When it comes to even the types of crimes solved, Pappas submitted zeros to the state.
Year after year, they show 0 for all of the categories.
This is unacceptable. I work for the Office of Inspector General, and our job was to oversee waste, fraud, and abuse. And based on these numbers, it's a clear red flag to me.
Wouldn't it be a good idea to keep a list of here are all of the crimes solved thanks to a tip? You going to pay me? That's a full-time job. Do something like that. We need a director. Why don't you put that in a question for us? It's a great question, but she's got to ask the police departments, Richard. We don't keep those records. I mean, I don't want to lie to her. No, I don't want you to. I think that's a good question. I reached out to police departments that work with North Texas Crime Stoppers. Those departments told me they do not keep records regarding Crime Stoppers tips. We don't record them because no one has ever come to Crime Stoppers and said, "What have you done?" Until now, that is.
There should be an outside entity that should go in and independently audit these people, our Crime Stoppers, to ensure that no one is embezzling the money, stealing the money, or misappropriating the money.
After our meeting, Pappas did provide me with dollar amounts for different crime categories, but it is information that was not submitted to the state, and the amounts did not add up to previously released amounts. Again, North Texas Crime Stoppers is one of the many certified Crime Stoppers programs in the state. It also runs a campus program that did submit categories of crimes solved through tips. I also requested an interview with the board chair for Crime Stoppers USA, the organization that provides certifications for local programs, as well as the regional director for Texas. Both declined my requests. Stephen Heather.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
They have millions and millions of dollars and they just pay out a few thousand and they don't want to find out for themselves which ones they paid out. They don't have time for that. It does sound like something needs to be done. Lori, thank you very much.